Welcome to Jobber Jabber's Top 10 Wrestlers of All Time. Randy Savage. The Macho Man Randy Savage was one of the most iconic wrestlers of the 80s and 90s. Incredibly intense, both in and out of the ring, Savage was known for his high-energy promos, which included the still well-known catchphrase, "Ooh yeah!" Savage was also an impeccable in-ring worker, and was well known for insisting that every move, every spot in a match was choreographed beforehand. Several of his matches are known as some of the best ever in the wrestling ring. Dusty Rhodes. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. One of the most popular babyfaces of the 80s and into the 90s, Dusty Rhodes portrayed a common man gimmick. Unlike most wrestlers of his time, he did not have a muscular physique. He said he was the son of a plumber, always out to defend good old American values. He was one of the most over wrestlers of his time. He headlined multiple pay-per-view events in the 80s and 90s. He is still one of the best known wrestlers of all time. Triple H. Triple H has been a WWE mainstay for over 20 years. Originally billed as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, an obnoxious, rich heel, Triple H's gimmick has evolved over time, but he has remained one of the top performers in the industry. Early in his career, he was a member of D-Generation X, one of the most influential factions of the Attitude Era. He would go on to hold the world title several times in his career. He is now Vince McMahon's right-hand man, and has significant backstage power in the WWE. Many see Triple H as the new figurehead of the company. Bret Hart. Bret the Hitman Hart had a long and distinguished career in the wrestling ring. Initially part of the Hart Foundation tag team with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Hart captured several tag team championships. Later he would go on to hold the Intercontinental title multiple times. During the New Generation era of WWF, Bret Hart was perhaps the most important figure. He was the company's primary headliner during that era, and his feud with Shawn Michaels, which culminated in the Montreal Screwjob in 1997, is one of the best known angles in wrestling history. Sadly, Bret Hart's career was cut short by a concussion. John Cena. Beginning in the early to mid-2000s, John Cena became the primary face of the WWE. As of the making of this video, Cena has held the world title 16 times, which ties Ric Flair for the most ever. Cena is known for giving outstanding promos. He is one of the most popular wrestlers of all time, especially with young people. The PG era of the WWE is known primarily for John Cena's run. Though his career is winding down, he continues to be a major draw for fans. Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, had a very long career and is best known for his time in the WWF and WWE. Beginning as a member of the mid-card tag team The Rockers alongside Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels emerged in the New Generation era as one of the company's top performers and biggest draws. His career in the WWE lasted over 20 years and included many title runs. He has been involved in some of the most famous feuds and angles in wrestling history, including the Montreal Screwjob with Bret Hart, and ending the career of Ric Flair in a retirement match. The Rock. The Rock is perhaps one of the most persistent performers in wrestling history. Starting his career as Rocky Maivia, his gimmick was initially rejected by fans, but he persisted, and his updated persona of The Rock became one of the best known and popular of the Attitude Era. The Rock headlined many pay-per-views in what may have been the most popular and successful era in wrestling history. His success in the late 90s and early 2000s played a significant role in the WWE winning the Monday Night Wars over WCW and emerging as the only real power player in the wrestling industry. The Rock, whose real name is Dwayne Johnson, but also go on to a highly successful career as a Hollywood movie star. Hulk Hogan. Nobody in wrestling is more responsible for the mainstream success of the industry than Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan emerged in the mid-1980s as the biggest star in wrestling history. His name, look, and charisma paved the way for the WWF to emerge as a mainstream entertainment power. His initial WWF run, which was known as Hulkamania, lasted into the mid-1990s. He then transitioned to the WCW, where he eventually emerged as the leader of one of the most famous factions in wrestling history, the NWO. Still a household name, the case can be made that wrestling would not be what it is today without Hulk Hogan. The Undertaker. The Undertaker is one of the most popular, best known, and longest lasting wrestling personas in history. Beginning in the Golden Era as a frightening heel, Taker would evolve over the years to be portrayed in many different ways. The Undertaker enjoyed a long 21-match winning streak at WrestleMania, which is one of the best known achievements in wrestling history. Taker held the World Championship multiple times and has been involved in some of the most famous matches in WWE history. He is one of the few wrestlers who was involved in every era from the Golden Age of wrestling all the way through the PG era. Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was to the Attitude Era what Hulk Hogan was to the Golden Age. Perhaps the biggest draw in wrestling history, Steve Austin led the way for the company during the Attitude Era. His success in the WWE in the late 90s and early 2000s led the WWE to becoming one of the most successful purveyors of edgy entertainment in the world. His wildly successful career was relatively short due to a number of injuries that he sustained in the ring. His feud with Mr. McMahon is one of the most iconic in wrestling history. Stone Cold Steve Austin is perhaps the biggest reason that the WWE prevailed over WCW. Ric Flair. The Nature Boy Ric Flair is one of the most memorable and well-known wrestlers of all time. Beginning in the 70s, Ric Flair emerged as the preeminent performer in the NWA, at the time one of the major wrestling promotions in the world. Throughout the 80s, he maintained the status as the company's biggest heel and one of the best-known wrestlers in the world. In a career that continued all the way into the late 2000s, Ric Flair held the world title a record 16 times. His arrogant promo spots are some of the best known ever, and he is also widely regarded as one of the best in-ring workers to ever step into the squared circle. Flair played a significant role in turning wrestling into a mainstream success in the 80s. He successfully transitioned from being the face of the NWA into being one of the WWE's top names in the early 2000s. No wrestler can boast the longevity and overall success that the Nature Boy Ric Flair can.